Hey, this is Daniel. I want to talk about how I went from this to this. Okay. Um, First off, I would have to say that trauma. Okay, trauma is a very, very powerful thing, and it can change the trajectory of your life. It can change who you are as a person. It can change your characteristics. It affects you mentally, spiritually, physically, right? In the beginning, when I was young, I was a very, I would say, confident kid. Grew up in Inglewood, Chicago. That's where I was born. That's the hood, right? But I was really big into sports. I was good academically. I was very smart kid, very sharp, smart in school, smart in the streets, and I was athletic, and that was my thing. I remember when we were younger, me and my friends, we made an agreement amongst ourselves. Could you imagine, like, 9-year olds, 10-year olds, 12-year olds, 13-year olds making this agreement? Like, hey, we're not going to, when we get older, we're not going to smoke, we're not going to drink, we're going to play football, basketball. Like, we were real serious with this. Like, you couldn't tell me I wasn't going to the NFL. Um, and what changed me as a kid is the trauma, the different, the negativity, the negative, traumatizing, sinful things that I experienced as a child through certain circumstances and environments, right? Now, trauma works in a mysterious way. You can go through something traumatizing as a 7-year old, a 9-year old, or a 10-year old, and it affect you at that moment, but you quickly forget. You go out and um, you continue to be a kid, right? You continue to be a kid, and you go out and play with your friends, and it's like you just suppress it. You forget about it, right? But once you start hitting the ages of like 15, 16, 18, 20, right, in your 20s, that trauma begins to affect you. It begins to affect you in a different way. Um, so that's when I saw the changes occur when I became a teenager. The traumatizing things that I experienced as when I was younger began to affect me, right? So to ease that trauma, what I did is I began to smoke weed, right? I began to smoke weed, and it was like, hey, I'm acting silly, and I'm having the munchies and all these different things. It's making me feel like myself, right? Not knowing that I had PTSD, I didn't even know what it was, right? So it's like, yo, I'm being myself, right? And I really believe somebody laced some weed that I had, right? One time I was with my cousins and we were smoking this weed with these Mexican guys that we knew, and they put the weed in like these tomato cans, right, or like bean cans, right, and the weed was like black. It was black as the screen behind me, like it was just But we was like, oh, this is some good stuff, and we smoking and we getting high. And it was like after that, I developed what is called weed psychosis, right? Whenever you smoke weed, you get paranoid, your heart race, you get in fight or flight mode, you start feeling like danger is coming to someone is coming to get you, right? You become paranoid. It got to the point where I began to hear voices, and that's when I said, okay, no, you know what? It's time to stop smoking weed. But once again, I'm not knowing I'm dealing with PTSD. Everybody around me is most people around me is dealing with PTSD. We grew up on 67 in Blackstone on the east side of Chicago. Very dangerous, violent neighborhood. So all these people around me have PTSD, and I'm the only one out there sober. Everybody else is smoking and drinking and doing all these things to ease the PTSD, but I'm out there sober, so I'm out there just paranoid and dealing with anxiety and heavy chest, heart rate increasing, and all these different things that you deal with, sorrow and stuff, right? With PTSD. And so I began to drink, right? And once again, oh, okay, I like drinking. I feel like myself. I can be goofy. I can play. I can have fun, right? I can let loose. I can open up because that trauma that I was dealing with had me in a dark place, right? And once I began to drink, I ran across this girl that was a friend of mine. The friend that I had before her, she was into the Bible, and she was putting light into me. She was when I used to go around her and her family, she would read the Bible, she would tell me to pray. She know who she is. She lived in Humboldt Park, right? Um, she was black. Her family was black and Puerto Rican, right? So she was that beacon of light that I had at the time. She got me to pray and read the Bible and stuff like that, and I was feeling good, right? I didn't have to smoke or do any of those things. That's the power of the Most High. I didn't have to drink or anything. I was feeling good. It was between 15 and 18. Once me and her stopped being friends, and um, I started hanging with different people, and I started hanging with another female friend. And I don't blame no one. It was my choice, right? But she was into partying and drinking a lot. So I started partying and drinking every day, right? And it changed me. I blew up to like 320 pounds. I became gluttonous. I was like chasing pleasure all the time, drinking every day, right? I wasn't as sharp anymore. I wasn't definitely doing nothing. How you going to be athletic? You drinking every day. I wasn't doing nothing athletic. I began to change mentally, spiritually, physically. I began to look different, right? So, and I noticed, like, man, yo, like I'm changing. Like my family, my mother. Every time she see me, she, boy, you getting big and this and this and what's wrong with you? You're changing. You know, they letting me know this. My grandmother, and so one day I was hanging with her, right? But I'm gonna tell you, this is the power and influence of music, right? I came up, and I'm not saying these guys was perfect. They was talking about certain things too, but I grew up listening to like Styles P and Nas and Beanie Siegel and Rockefeller. State Property was one of my favorite groups. Dipset was one of my favorite groups. The Lox, um, Beanie Siegel, all these different people, and so many others, right? Slim Thug and the rappers a lot of the rappers from those days, right? Pac, right? People wasn't talking about like doing drugs like that. Like they wasn't talking about like popping pills and doing lean and all these different things, right? It wasn't until I was at me and my friend Q, we was always throwing these parties, right? And a friend of ours, Black, may his soul rest. He's not here anymore. He was a DJ. So us three would throw these big parties, right? And he at the time I knew about Gucci Mane, but I wasn't really into like Gucci Mane and some of the other rappers that was not Southern rappers. I don't want people, it doesn't matter anyway, but because some people get butthurt about it, but not Southern rappers as a whole, but those group of Southern rappers, like around that time that was talking about pills and lean and all that stuff, right? And Laffy Taffy. I wasn't into that, right? I came up in I listened to the people I'd said before. So when I was at the party, they was playing Gucci Mane, and I heard the Lemonade was popping around that time. But the people in the party, they really wanted to hear that Is You Rolling, right? They really wanted to hear that. So he just kept playing the song. So I remember the next day, I was like, we was talking about the recap of the party, like the songs and how the crowds react to different songs. And he was like, man, it was turning up to that Gucci. And that rolling, Is You Rolling? And then I asked him, I'm like, what is he talking about in that song? Like, what is rolling? I didn't know what it was. I'm like, what is rolling? What is You Rolling? And they like, yo, it's popping pills, you know what I'm saying? Papa Bean, And I'm like, oh, okay. So then after that, I'm constantly hearing this music, mainly from the Southern rappers, where it was like my friends was listening to it and they was talking about Bite Down and Papa Do a Line, Papa Bean, right? Drinking lean and all this stuff. And next thing you know, my friends was constantly listening to this, and before I know it, man, all of my friends, majority of my friends was popping pills. I wasn't popping them for a minute. I wasn't popping them. They was. They was. I went to the corner store. My friend had a pill in his mouth. I'm like, you popping pills? He like, yeah. So I was kicking it with that friend of mine that was drinking and partying every day. And a friend of hers had on sunglasses. It was like midnight. And I'm like, what are you doing? You got on sunglasses? Like, what's up? Oh, she rolling off a pill. I'm like, you popping pills too? And she like, yeah, I feel good. And this and that. We in like on South Chicago somewhere. We far east, 79th, somewhere over there, Yates or something, right? And I'm like, I want to try it. And from that moment, she ended up calling the guy. He ended up coming, bringing it out, and I was doing it. Now I'm doing it, right? And I noticed that from that moment forward, I fell into a real dark place. Um, some people, a lot of my loved ones was concerned about me. Like I wasn't going to work. Um, I was losing weight. I was just, man, I'm talking about we would be up all day, all night. Like we'd go to like 3 different lounges and be up for like 24 hours straight. I knew people that was up 3 hours straight, man. That's demonic, man. 3 hours straight off that stuff. And one day we was in the neighborhood on the block, and the guy was like, "Hey, he's like, that when you pop them ecstasy pills, like it take like 7 years before your brain can really get back to normal, the way that it was before you start popping them." Now, remind you, now when he said this, we about to get ready and buy some pills, and it just clicked in me like, you know what, like I have fell into a very dark, deep depression. Them pills are demonic. Drugs is demonic, period. I'm clean. I don't do none of that stuff anymore. I don't even drink. But the pills just took it to another level. It's very demonic. It took me to a very, 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 very dark place in my life. And I just isolated myself. And the only thing that I knew how to do was that old friend of mine. She always talked about prayer, and I just went back to that when I was 15. Okay, and by this time I'm like 20, 22, right? So I'm like, you know what? Got on my knees, start praying. Hey, Father, I need healing. Like I'm lost. Just praying to him, and he started to isolate me from a lot of people that wasn't good for me. People start turning against me and stuff like that, right? Some of the people I grew up with, I'm still in contact with them, and some of them I'm not, but it ain't no hatred. It's no hatred with none of them, but he isolated me for a good reason, because that was what I needed to grow. And what really like made a big impact in a positive manner was when I began to fast. Fasting will heal you. If you was a person that did any type of drugs or was an alcoholic, right? Fasting will heal you from the inside out. It'll heal your mind mentally. It'll heal your body. It'll heal you spiritually, right? I went from being 300 and something pounds, and I got down to like 165 pounds. People was like, yo, like, what are you doing? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I changed, right? You could see the light in me. Like, I felt good. My mind was like stable, right? And I was just fasting. I wasn't even fasting, like doing long fasts, like 3-4 day fasts at this time. Like, I was doing like, I would just fast every day to probably like 3 o'clock at least. Some days I fast to sunset. Some days I would fast to like 12, because I would go out and walk around the park. I was going to the gym from time to time too. And it was like the fasting just made me want to eat healthy. It's like it dumped all of that waste and sugar out of my pancreas, and it just got my body back to a certain point in my mind where I wasn't even craving like snacks and all the sugary stuff. And then I slept like a baby. Cause you gotta understand, like you can sleep debt is a real thing. Like you gotta really catch up on sleep. So I had went years and years of partying and running the streets, and I wasn't getting any rest. So during that time, like I was just always sleeping, right? Always sleeping. And I was just blocking out all the negativity, all the negative things. It was like it naturally happened when I was fasting. Like, and I was just locking in with positivity, like reading the scriptures, meditating on the scriptures, hitting the gym, meditating on things that'll make me better, productive. Like, and that's what you really need to do. Like, you can't hang with the same type of people that you used to hang with. It won't work. You got to get around different people. You got to get out of your comfort zone. You got to start filling up your mind with the right things. You know what I'm saying? Prayer and fasting works, and you start being obedient to what the word says, and you will begin to change. That's how I changed. That's how I changed. People saw me and they was like, "Yo, this dude different. Not only do he look different, he's different. He's different. My whole ethos, my aura was just different, and people could tell." You know what I'm saying? I felt like I was back to the essence of what Yah created me to be. You know what I'm saying? Which I was. I was back to what the Most High created me to be. You know, praise to the Most High for that. So you gotta turn to Him. Like, don't be prideful. Like, we're created in His image, and we gotta lock in with what He wants us to, like the positivity. You know what I'm saying? The scriptures guide you. The scriptures is all about doing righteous, good works and being productive. When I was doing all that stuff, it was hard for me to be productive. I always kept some money in my pocket. I was working, but I couldn't do nothing right with it. You know, and it took a minute for me to heal from that stuff. But the fasting is what made it skyrocket, okay? It will heal you from the trauma, all the stuff that changed you, the drugs and all that, how the drugs change you physically and spiritually, mentally, it will heal you from that. So I will tell you, give it a try, because I know for sure, 100% sure that it works. Hope you got something from this, guys. Y'all have a good day.